My brother went missing years ago. I think I finally know what happened to him. It turns out my family has... I'm trying to write this in a way so that no one will be able to research and find out who I am, or who my brother is. But it's the internet and everyone's a super sleuth. My brother went missing years ago, and when I say missing, I mean that his case was declared one of those creepy unsolved mysteries. I distinctly remember my parents interviewing for the news in our living room, and now I think I know what happened to him. I was very young when he went missing. I barely remember him, but I do remember that I loved him a lot. He would pull me around our block in a wagon. Most kids his age didn't do that. The days before he disappeared, I remember him staying home and babysitting me. I stayed in my room and played Nintendo 64. Throughout the day, a guy came over. I remember him. He was older, almost our dad's age. My brother made me go into my room whenever I heard the doorbell. Later, after the guy left, my brother would ask me to not say anything about the guy. With my brain only being focused on video games and extra dessert at that age, I agreed. I didn't care, nor did I comprehend the gravity of the situation. The day before he disappeared, I remembered the older guy coming over. I was in the kitchen and remember looking up and seeing him kiss my brother. They hugged. They didn't care that I saw them. The older guy waved at me and I waved back. Then I kept watching cartoons. I fell asleep on the couch and woke up to my brother whispering outside our front door. "Don't worry, he's asleep," he said. The older guy said something I couldn't hear. Then my brother said something I couldn't make out, but I made out the words, "visit them." Or maybe he said visit him? Either way, I knew the word visit was in his sentence. The man raised his voice and said no. Then I heard the words plan and city, and then I fell asleep again. The next morning, the day he disappeared, my parents were at work. My brother was acting very strange. I remember he kept checking the clock. In the afternoon, I remember him picking me up and asking me if I wanted to go in the wagon. I was too hooked on N64 and I said no. He almost begged me and I said no again. Then he told me he had to run to our neighbor's house for something. I don't even remember what he said. I said, okay. He reminded me not to open the door for anyone, only mom and dad. I shouted at him, okay, because Super Mario was getting on my freaking nerves and he wasn't helping. Then he gave me a hug, told me he loved me, and left, and he never came back. All these years later, decades later, and I think he was in love with that man. I know he was. The memories randomly came flooding back to me earlier. I'm not quite sure why, but it has been taking over my thoughts lately. I can't sleep because I keep thinking about it. I think my brother left with that man and they ran away together. Or maybe something worse happened, but I don't think that's the case. My freshman year of college, I was part of a sports team that got national recognition. I remember my team's picture was on ESPN with our university's name. A few days later, I got mail at my dorm. It was a gift basket. I thought it was from my parents, so I didn't read the card. I threw it away immediately and ate what was in it, but it was nothing but candy. Nerds, Jolly Ranchers, Tootsie Rolls, and Hershey's Kisses. I called my dad and thanked him for the gift basket, and he said he didn't send one. Neither did mom. Then I got to thinking, all of those candies were what I used to eat as a kid. Literally, all I ate for the earliest years of my life were those candies. I tried to find the card, but I couldn't. Then I began to think about how my brother would wheel me in the wagon to the gas station close to our house so I could get candy after dinner, even though it was a punishable by death no-no from mom. Months later during Christmas, I got an unmarked Christmas card. The only thing written on it was a smiley face. Since then, I have heard nothing. No one I know has sent the card. I have never responded. I wonder every day if he's out there. I have never told anyone this. When the police asked me what happened that day, I told them he went to the neighbors because that's all I remembered, honestly. And this destroyed my parents. My mom became addicted to painkillers, and my dad has had 3 extramarital affairs, which I know this tragedy is no way an excuse to cheat, but it sure didn't help. It has ruined our family, and maybe my brother knows what he did. Maybe he regrets it and knows he can't come back home. But if I could see him today, I would just want to tell him that he is always welcome in my home. I love you so much, brother. We have so much catching up to do. Please come home, please. Update. My parents kept my brother a secret from me. It's 4 p.m. and I'm drunk. These past few weeks have been insane. I posted on here before. My brother went missing a long time ago. I thought he ran away from home. Anyway, I asked my parents about it, my dad actually, and my dad ignored me. My mom then told me my brother is alive and okay, as far as she knows. They apparently found my brother's years ago, a very, very long time ago, and found out he was living with another man. He is gay, and it disgusted my parents. He tried reaching out to them, and they told him that they didn't want to do anything with him, and that I didn't remember him and wouldn't want to see him. I went ballistic. My parents weren't fazed about it. They sincerely hate my brother for who he is, for being gay. They kept him a secret from me for all my freaking life. My brother missed the birth of his nephew. He missed my wedding, graduations, everything, just because of my parents. They lied to me. I've been able to get a phone number and contact information from police officers. My brother left it all open in case anyone from our family wanted to contact him. I still can't work up the nerve to call him. The address I have for him is across the freaking country. But he's alive. My brother is alive. I'm drunk as hell right now because I can't deal with any of this. I haven't talked to my parents in weeks, and I never plan on speaking to them again. Not for what they've done to me or my brother. This is real and it happened. It happened. It is happening right now. I don't know how to process this at all. My parents let me believe my brother was dead or kidnapped forever, when in reality he just ran away, and when he wanted to come back, they disowned him. I'm freaking crying right now. How could they do that? Screw you, God. Screw you, Christians. And Jesus, I don't even know what to do. I'm so sorry. Update. I met my brother that was missing. Here's an update for you all. The day after I made my last post, I woke up and called into work. I told my wife, who is essentially my confidant, and I tell her everything, the whole story. She wasn't really surprised. She's not a fan of my parents much, but like many of you, she told me to call the number I was given for my brother immediately. She insisted on it. She took herself and my son out for a day together, so I could be alone to talk with him. I dialed the number about 7 times before I actually pressed the call button. It started ringing and I hung up. Then I got frustrated at myself and called the number back. It rang and rang again, and I got a voicemail, but it was the automated voice, not anyone else's. I didn't leave a voicemail. I thought this whole thing was ridiculous. I called my wife and I told her to come home, and she refused until I had talked to someone on the other end of the phone. About an hour of pacing and drinking 2 glasses of scotch at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I called the number again. It rang 3 times, I panicked, I hung up, but this time the number was calling me back. I swear to whatever God or gods above, I thought my heart was going to stop. I almost threw up right there. I answered the call. The first thing I heard on the other end of the line was a guy laughing in the background. There was wind on the phone. The person on the other end was outside, and it was windy. And he said, "Who is this?" It was his voice. I knew that voice. It was my freaking brother. My brother, who had been gone for my entire life. I covered my mouth with my hand shaking and just sat there. He kept asking me who it was. The guy in the background was trying to talk over him, and then he hung up on me. I called him back right away. He answered again. Me being a creepy ass, the first thing I said after decades of not seeing him and thinking he was dead, I blurted out, "I got your number." He asked me who I was and what I wanted, and then I said, "It's me." There was a really long pause. I thought the call had dropped. Then I heard him tell someone to turn the radio down and roll up the window. The sound of wind stopped, and then he asked me my name. I told him, and he said that I was lying. I told him I got his number from the Missing Children's Network and detectives, and I heard him gasp. He asked me what color shoelaces he wore to a picnic when we were kids, and I remember my mom getting mad at his orange laces with blue shoes. It was the last time we were together as a family, and I could tell he was crying. The first thing he asked me was, "Where are you?" And I told him I lived a few hours away from home. And without hesitating, he told me, "I'm coming." And he went straight to the airport without any luggage, bought a plane ticket, and flew straight to me. We stayed on the phone with each other the whole time. When he was walking through the gate, I knew who he was right away. He is middle-aged, salt and pepper hair, muscular. He looks just like our dad, only better. I knew if I told him that it would only make him mad. I literally pushed an old lady out of the way, and I just hugged him. He's about 2 inches taller than me. He was able to pick me up, and he was crying. I was crying. I was having a breakdown. We went to a bar at the airport, and he wouldn't let me out of his sight. He kept holding on to my arm, and he kept telling me how unreal it all was. He apologized to me. He kept crying, telling me how he felt horrible, and I told him to forget everything and tell me about his life. He told me that he's married, his husband is a doctor, a pediatric oncologist. They live in the Pacific Northwest. They have 2 children, girls 12 and 8. He works as a legal consultant and has his own firm. He has an amazing life. He told me that he thought I hated him and wanted nothing to do with him. We sat at the bar for hours, literal hours. I think we sat for about 6 hours before I begged him to come home and meet my wife. We got home and my wife was a mess. She hugged him and insisted he stay with us. At this point, his husband was going insane and kept calling. He had no idea what was going on. He thought he had eloped or something. It was crazy for a couple of days until everything was explained and out in the open. My son and my brother were like 2 peas in a pod. Honestly, I never wanted children. My son was an amazing accident, but I'm not good with kids. I'm always afraid I'm going to break them, but my brother is a pro. Kids love him. He stayed with us for 2 weeks, and in 2 weeks, everything about my life changed. His husband and 2 daughters flew in to stay with us. My brother-in-law and my 2 nieces. My family. They were my family. They are my family. My brother wants my wife and I to move to be closer to him. My wife is on board. I work as a professor at a university and have already started to send out feelers to see if there are any open positions, and I've found one that is actually tenured and higher pay. I do not plan on forgiving my parents, but my brother still loves them. He went by their house and knocked on the door. My father shut the door in his face. My mother gave him a hug and told him to take care of himself. Then she shut him out. I can't forgive them for that. I have no reason to stay close to them. I want to be with my family. I want to make up for all the lost time. It's 2 a.m. right now, and I'm drinking a tall glass of scotch and grading papers. My beautiful, wonderful, smart wife is asleep on the couch. She likes to watch me grade the papers. My son is asleep in his room, cuddled up with all the stuffed animals his uncle brought him. And I am here, so happy, so fulfilled that my family has grown and doubled in size so suddenly. My heart is happy. I am so happy right now, Reddit. I am so happy. Final update number 3. My new family and moving forward. Everything in my life has changed in the last 10 months. Honestly, I don't even know what to say. I want to apologize for neglecting this account. I've been busy. I want to fill you all in on what's been going on in my life. I owe everyone who has messaged and commented that much at the very least. My wife, son, and myself have moved. Not exactly to the same region of the country as my brother and his family, but much closer to him. I got a new job teaching at a new university months ago. While it's not a tenured position, it gives me the option to do research, which is my favorite thing to do. My brother-in-law's family has had many interesting discussions with each other, trying to describe what has happened between my brother and I. They're a pretty open-minded and accepting family, so to hear what we've been through was absolutely shocking to them. My brother never told his husband the truth about his life, only that he didn't speak to his family anymore. Nevertheless, they welcomed me and my family with open arms when we came to visit. It was like we had always been a part of their family. I feel content knowing that they are my family. When my brother ran away with his first boyfriend, he was verging on 18. He has elaborated and told me that the relationship with the man was abusive, and when he tried to leave and return home, our parents would not let him. So he was forced to stay with an abusive man because he had nowhere else to go until he moved away to college. This deepened my anger for my parents, but my brother, still to this day, has this ridiculous sense of hope and optimism. I love that about him because I don't have that. My brother and I are 2 very different people, but in a way that works well. We reflected on my teenage years, and I filled him in on what happened with my life. My brother is very quiet and observant. He always watches before he intervenes. He's soft-spoken and gently objects when someone says something he disagrees with. He's patient, kind, and optimistic, as I've said. He has a very loving heart, so I think that's why he has an unrelenting faith in our parents. Me, on the other hand, I'm abrasive, impatient, and quick to jump to conclusions. Despite being very different, we have this uncanny ability to be thinking the same thing. Even though we have been separated for several years, we can still give each other a look and know exactly what the other is plotting. My brother has been able to create a spectacular life for himself, all on his own. One thing I struggle with is knowing that he went through more than half of his life by himself, putting himself through college and law school all alone. The more he filled me in about the years away from our parents, the more angry I became. I severed communication with my parents months ago, after the last time I posted on here, and it has done wonders for my own mental health. But then the election happened a few weeks ago. In all honesty, I don't even have the words to summarize what this presidential election was. I don't want to make this political, but this whole thing, by its nature, is political and serves a great purpose. I've read messages on here of people saying that they too have been disowned by family for being gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or other identifying. I've heard so many stories from Redditors across the country telling me that they are scared, alone, and afraid every single day of their lives, all because of who they fundamentally are. The day after the election, my brother and his husband were devastated. My wife, who is a black woman, was devastated. It's not just Donald Trump himself, it's his supporters, followers, and the ideology that took hold with so many people. Where I come from, Donald Trump's hateful rhetoric on registering Muslims and disenfranchising LGBTQ+ people and minorities was heralded as something genius and revolutionary. But to me, it is a personal attack on my family. I have been in shock and disgusted for days. I had to explain to my son what it all means and why the world is not always a good place. I had to have the same conversation with him when his grandparents did not like him because of his dark skin. The day after the election, however, I got a call from my mother. I didn't answer it because I was in class, but she left a voicemail and said she would like to talk to me at my earliest convenience. I thought on it, still enraged, but decided to call her back, more out of curiosity than a desire to speak with her. When we began our conversation, she asked how I was doing. My answers were short, one-worded. She jumped right in, and I could tell she was uncomfortable. She apologized, but she apologized only to me. I wasn't fazed by this. I told my mother that she should talk to my brother instead, and unless she did that, then she need not call me anymore. I told my brother that our mother had called and apologized, and the look on his face was pure happiness. I can't even begin to describe it to you all. It was as if all of his dreams had come true. My brother called our mother, and she, to my surprise, picked up. They had a short conversation, and my brother's happy glow had dimmed somewhat when he got off the phone. He told me that she said that, given the election results, she only wanted to speak to me. I guess alluding to the fact that I'm a white, straight male, the normal son, in an effort to repair the family, and that we all, me, my mom, and my dad, not my brother, need each other right now. She also went on to say she does not approve of what my brother does, but she had read up on his lifestyle and recommended conversion therapy. My brother ended the call with a very gentle, "I'm sorry, Mom, but I can't do that. I love you. Good night." I think my brother has been broken these last few weeks, and the hope and optimism that naturally carries him through life has been eradicated. He's buried himself in work and ignores any discussion around our family. My wife is a counselor, and she normally avoids counseling people she doesn't work with, but she's told me that the only thing I can do for my brother at this point is to be there for him, and to never let him be alone again. Like I said before though, I have a tendency to lash out and be aggressive. Yesterday, while stewing on my own rage about my parents, I called my mother, and when she answered, I just began screaming into the phone. I unleashed a lot of things, and I remember crying while I did so because I was so enraged. I told her how much she hurt my brother, her son, and how she put his life in danger, all for her ideology. I told her how unfair and upsetting it is that her and my dad would do this to their children, to my brother, how it's criminal, and how they should be punished. When I finished screaming, I was going to hang up because she surprisingly didn't during my 10-minute tirade, but she cut in with a quiet, "He sounds grown." My mother acknowledged my brother's existence with that short sentence. Then she went on with, "I'm so sorry. Let me speak to him, okay?" But I didn't. I hung up. Then I blocked her number. I don't know what she wanted to say, but I'm afraid it is something that could damage my brother further. We are currently staying with him for the Thanksgiving holiday. My view right now is this. My wife and my brother-in-law are sitting on the living room floor trying to assemble an IKEA shelf. My son is beside me watching cartoons and keeps telling his mother and uncle to shh, and my brother is in the kitchen washing dishes. This is a life that people want to see destroyed, taken away, and converted. This is a life I am so grateful to have, and it is filled with people that this world is lucky to have on its surface. I haven't told my brother that our mom tried to call, and I don't want to. I don't think there's a point. I just want to spend as much time and energy as I can trying to love my brother, my family, my small little slice of bliss. This is my heaven. This is a life I will proudly defend against hate and intolerance and bigotry. I am so lucky to have this life, these people, and this happiness, and I will never stop fighting for it. Wow, this was a story in 3 parts. It got emotional, a little angry, a little hateful, a little loving, a little left and right, zig and zag, up and down. Oh my goodness. I'm not going to get into the political aspects or the religious aspects. We don't do that here. I don't want to do that here. But overall, I'm very happy that OP has found his brother. And I'm not happy that the family got rid of him, though. But you know what? He said, screw that. To hell with my parents. I got my loving wife. I got my kid. I got my brother-in-law, my brother, his family, all that. And they have come together and he has built something. He found what he was looking for and happiness. And then he also mentioned that his parents were racist to his wife and daughter. Yikes o'clock. But this is just a good story overall. I'm happy, right? There's some downward slopes, and that's unfortunate, but that's kind of how life is. It can't always be happy, but he found his brother, he moved closer to him, and he's got what he wanted. A family that he loves, and a family that loves him. And sometimes that's about all you can hope for. Next story. Story number 2. I am worried my husband's sister might have been trying to harm or even kill me. 3 days ago, my husband and I went to his parents' house to visit for the weekend. His sister is a college student and was home for the summer as well, so we got to see her too. Since they have a lakefront property and the weather was very nice, a lot of our time was spent at the lake this weekend, and some very weird things happened. For some background first, I've always kind of gotten an off vibe from my husband's younger sister. When we were dating, it seemed like she would find any excuse in the world to avoid me, and when we did interact, I sensed some hostile undertones pretty much every single time. I brushed it off as just me maybe not clicking with her or misinterpreting her. Still, when we got married last year, I included her as one of my bridesmaids. And low-key, she was a huge pain in the ass for that entire experience. My other bridesmaids told me she made snide comments to them that made them quite uncomfortable. She was huffy during the bridal shower and wedding rehearsal, made weird faces at the decorations, and pulled weird faces when she ate the cake too. I still brushed it off as maybe just her personality and left it at that. At the lake though, a number of events occurred that kind of unsettled me. On the day we arrived, my husband's sister had invited a number of her friends from college over, and the group of us spent some time together in the water. At one point, we all decided to have a big chicken fight, and at first it was quite fun and lighthearted. Then a bunch of people, including my husband, broke away to do their own thing, and his sister turned to me and said, "Let's do another round." Her other 2 friends were also still in the lake, by the way, and then she asked to get on my shoulders. I said sure, knelt down, went under the water to let her up, but instead of getting on my shoulders properly, she got on top of my head and wouldn't budge at all when I tried to move her. I couldn't get her off of me or even get my head up to breathe for what felt like a long time. My head was being squeezed between her thighs, and I was seriously panicking by the time I managed to dislodge her and bring my head up to the surface. What's weird about it was that the other 2 weren't even paying attention to any of this or even participating in the attempted chicken fight at all. My husband's sister didn't say anything to me when I came up to the surface, just kind of gave me this weird snort chuckle and got out of the water. I was noticeably shaken and trying to catch my breath, but I assumed maybe this was just some sort of accident, so I tried to act fine and didn't say anything. My husband's parents have a Sea-Doo that they let those of us with a boating license use. I don't have a boating license, so it was mostly just me riding behind my husband with him at the wheel. My husband's sister offered me a ride though, and I didn't want to say no, thinking maybe this was a chance to bond with her, so I agreed to it. I told her the Sea-Doo still made me quite nervous, and to take it easy if she could. She definitely did not make it easy. She took any and every opportunity she could get to jump the Sea-Doo off the waves of boats that passed us by. She was doing sharp turns at high speeds like crazy, and I found myself having to cling on to her for dear life throughout the ride. There were points where we both nearly fell off the Sea-Doo with how wildly she was driving it. Again, though, I didn't say anything about it and acted fine because I thought maybe she didn't realize how fast and crazy she was going. Later, my dad's husband yelled at her for attempting to splash my husband with the Sea-Doo while he was in the water. Their dad told her it was dangerous to try and ride close to people in the water like that because she could have run him over. After about an hour or so, it was just me in the water with my husband's sister on the Sea-Doo. And she drove that thing within a couple feet of me just to turn it and splash me with water. Way closer than she ever got to my husband when she did it to him. I laughed it off, but again, I was inwardly freaked out. That brings us to yesterday at dinner. As everyone in the family has been made acutely aware of by my husband, I have a serious dairy allergy, to the point where ingesting even a little bit of it can cause risking anaphylaxis. My husband's sister contributed a big pot of tomato rice and told me there was no dairy in it, so I could have some. I trusted her and helped myself to a portion of it, but shortly after eating it, I had to excuse myself because I started to feel extremely ill and wound up spending the rest of my night puking my brains out. I felt super faint and it took a lot of effort to breathe. Thankfully, I had my EpiPen if things got bad enough, but still, the whole experience was just awful. The explanation I got later was that my husband's sister finished the tomato rice with butter to make it creamier and then forgot she put it in there before serving it to me. Seems again like it could have been an innocent mistake, but given the combination of everything that happened this weekend, I'm starting to feel suspicious that it's more than just that at this point. I don't know if I'm overreacting or just being a paranoid mess because this is a huge accusation, but I can't help but feel that niggling suspicion that maybe my husband's sister genuinely meant to harm me. I feel like I'm freaking crazy. Then in the comment section, OP gave some more relevant information and explained on the sister-in-law's snide comments. Here's some examples I remember off the top of my head. After my maid of honor went around showing us pictures of her dog, a doodle, apparently, my husband's sister made a comment along the lines of, "I don't know why people even get doodles, they're so unethical." She also made a comment about how much my maid of honor loaded her plate during a girls' night out to eat. And later on that night, she apparently insinuated that another bridesmaid of mine had drugstore makeup and said it in a way that made her uncomfortable. Then OP was asked if she got an apology about the rice and butter and what her husband thought. Yes, I did get an apology from her about the rice. My husband was pissed at her about it and went off on her about being so careless. But he seems to think it was just a really dumb accident on her part. I'm going to tell him about the other incidents though. Then OP was asked to elaborate on her relationship with her sister-in-law. It's weird. At certain points on the trip, she's been the friendliest she's ever been to me, and it seemed like maybe she was finally warming up to me. But then it would be mixed with events like these, and it just confuses me even more. I don't even know why she doesn't like me to begin with. I really did, and still do, want to have a bond with my sister-in-law, but I guess maybe that was never in the cards. Then OP elaborated on why she didn't call out the sister-in-law. I wasn't having the easiest time saying anything at all. By the time I'd caught my breath, my husband's sister was already out of the lake, and I didn't quite know if I even had a right to be mad. Accidents do happen. I thought maybe she'd been sitting on me wondering why I wasn't lifting her up already. I didn't have that same level of familiarity with her as I would an actual sister. If I had called her out, it would have been more of an issue, if that makes sense. It all happened so fast. In hindsight, I recognize now that I absolutely should have said something to somebody about it, but yeah. Also, my therapist does tell me I'm a massive people pleaser. My husband and I balance each other out a lot because he's more extroverted and isn't afraid of confrontation. I do agree, though, that there needs to be more boundaries on my part, and it's something I'm working on. Update. First, I'd like to extend my most sincere gratitude to the Redditors who took the time out of their day to give me advice. I wasn't expecting so many people to come to my support and confirm I wasn't being crazy or overreacting. I definitely needed to hear it, and in retrospect, I think this whole situation was the real wake-up call I needed to be more assertive and confident in my assessment of situations. A book I noticed a lot of Redditors recommend to me was Gavin de Becker's The Gift of Fear, so I gave it a look and I began to read it. So far, I've found it really insightful. Thanks for the recommendation. Anyways, here's what's happened since my last post. So, I did end up talking to my husband about my sister's behaviors towards me the last weekend. I was planning on sitting him down and just point-blank raising my concerns about her, but her name came up organically in conversation, so I ended up using it as a springboard for telling him about last weekend's incidents. As I went through each sketchy incident I had with her, my husband believed me and was angry on my behalf about what happened. He also supports my wishes to keep more of a distance from her going forward. He told me to let him know if she ever pulls anything like the incidents in the water or the sea-doo again. The dairy thing, though, he still believes to be a genuine accident. Apparently, she was in tears over how badly she felt about that. And apparently, my sister-in-law's behaviors last weekend weren't 100% out of character for her. After telling my husband about my incidents with her, he explained to me that she's had a history of crossing lines and testing the limits of people's boundaries like this, albeit never this egregiously. Until college, she struggled making and keeping friends due to constantly crossing peers' boundaries. My husband even had to come to her aid in grade school due to her pissing off the wrong people who were ready to beat her ass. He thought that she had gotten much better in recent years, which is why he was so taken aback when I told him about the stuff she did last weekend. Apparently, she's been in therapy for a very long time now to treat some mental health and behavioral issues. My husband was and is pissed at her for what she did to me, but he genuinely doesn't think her intentions were to kill or maim me, just to test my limits and haze me, albeit extremely recklessly. I'm inclined to agree with him, but my guard is still up in case it's anything more than that. His theory is that because I'm quite shy, she figured I was less likely to put my foot down with her, and that's why she did that stuff to screw with me in particular. It's not anything I did or said. I asked about that. So, going forward at family events and stuff, I'm going to keep my interactions with her brief. I'll still be polite, of course, but no way am I going to be alone with her anymore. And my husband said he's on board with this arrangement and will intervene if necessary to make sure it stays. It sucks to realize I'm probably never going to have a good relationship with my sister-in-law like I'd hoped. I've never had siblings before. So I was excited by the idea of having someone accept me as a sister and having that sort of relationship. Oh well, I get along well with the rest of his family, and I have enough kick-ass friends in my life who are like sisters to me in their own way. Here are some more relevant comments. User 1 said, "I'm so glad your husband believed you right away, and that he's got your back from now on. I don't know why, but I find your sister-in-law's behavior scary. Makes me curious what her mental health and behavioral issues are. Please stay vigilant with her, even if she tries to make up and win your trust back. Also, it's okay to let people go. Not all relationships are worth it, even with families. Please do whatever you need to keep yourself safe. Take care." Then OP said, "I'll preface this response by saying I don't judge anybody for going through mental health issues. I have plenty myself, and I don't want to further the stigma against my sister-in-law's disorders when I mention them. From what I remember my husband telling me, she had some sort of conduct disorder as a kid, then got diagnosed with bipolar disorder and ADHD. It's possible she has autism too, which would make sense considering a lot of her family members, including my husband, have it, and so do I. None of these disorders excuse her behavior, and I don't want anyone walking away thinking these disorders inherently make people behave the way my husband's sister does." Then user 2 said, "Glad he's got your back, but I mean she did try to drown you, so don't know why he thought she didn't try to kill you too, but okay. It does suck you won't have the relationship with her, but at least you know it isn't anything you've said or done. She clearly has unresolved issues. Also, what happens in the future when you have children? Do you leave kids at in-laws while she's around with you being present? Just make sure you clear all of this now with your husband before you have kids." And finally, OP replied with, "My husband thinks she wasn't trying to drown me, just roughhouse." I'm 50-50 on that one, to be honest, and my guard will remain perpetually up with her in any future interactions. Neither my husband or I want kids, so that's a non-issue as far as I'm concerned. To murder. To not to murder. That is the question. Not really. The question is, oh my god, WTF, BBQ, question mark. Yes, this sister-in-law has a lot of mental health issues, but this situation is crazy. But I am glad, though, that the husband believed her right away, thank goodness, because I know we have read so many stories where the husband would have been like, "How dare you think of that of my sister? She would have never done that. Why would you say such a thing?" But he's like, "Yeah, no, this is kind of consistent with her previous behavior." And he wasn't one of those husbands that were like in horror movies, where he's like, "Babe, the house isn't haunted. Babe, you're just seeing things. Babe, I don't know why there's blood coming from the ceilings. Who cares? Let's go watch the game." He wasn't that husband. He supported his wife. So that's good. What do you guys think? Next story. Story number 3. Am I the a-hole for telling my pregnant sister-in-law that everything isn't about her and her pregnancy? Hi Reddit, I, 16F, have recently been in quite a dilemma. My sister-in-law, 28F, has recently announced her pregnancy to the family. Everyone was overjoyed, and we had a little get-together as family. Mind you, my family lives in a sizable house, and my brother, 29M, has since moved back in to live closer to our parents and for his and sister-in-law's baby to be near our parents. So recently, sister-in-law has been really bossy around the house, mostly towards me. It started with small things that I didn't mind, like getting her some water or reaching for something high up that she can't reach. But then it started to transition into much more different things, such as she would make me massage her feet, which I always declined for. I don't feel comfortable touching others, and she would always call me unreasonable and overreacting, and that she is pregnant and needs help. I told my brother about this, and he just chalked it up to her hormones acting up, so I dropped it. Last Friday, I had this important research paper to submit, and I was on busy mode that day, and I didn't really pay attention to anyone around me. I was wearing my headphones and didn't hear my sister-in-law walking into my room and demanding I wash the dishes downstairs. I told her I was busy and would do it later, but she flipped out for some reason and called me a B word and said she is pregnant and I need to help her, and I said I just needed 2 hours, but she just walked out. Finally, I went down and didn't notice the time, and it apparently had been 3 hours. I heard commotions downstairs, and my sister-in-law was crying, telling the family I hit her and called her names. I didn't know where that was coming from because I never did anything wrong. So I told everyone what really happened, and yet they sided with her because she is pregnant, and she told me for some dang reason, "You're probably jealous your brother gives me all his attention now." My brother and I used to be close, and since he married, he hasn't had time for bonding, and he has work. My brother is at his work while all of this is happening, by the way, and something just boiled up inside of me instantly, and I told her not everything is about her and her pregnancy. And then she started with the crocodile tears, but I didn't care. I stormed out and just went for a walk. Nobody has yet talked to me, and I don't know what to do, because I feel like I'm the a-hole. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law not everything is about her and her baby? Update. Hi everyone, I'm still at school, but I don't want to forget about everything that happened, so here it goes. So, since everything happened last Friday, there's only a short update. I went back home and like I said, no one has yet talked to me. Also, my sister-in-law has announced it for quite a while now, and she's close to her due date. My brother works sometimes, requires him to leave for a few days because of projects or whatever, and he came home on Sunday, but I didn't talk yet because my sister-in-law was all around him when he came home. So last night, I decided to talk to my brother, and it was quite interesting. I told him everything, starting from the day they arrived, when she kept on making me do things, to the disgusting feet massages, and to her accusations. I was surprised, because he told me to drop it once again, and I was getting angry, but I am not really the type to easily get angry, so I just calmly told him to tell her off, because she isn't the only one with a life to live, and her being pregnant is not an excuse. He got angry and blurted out that we have to treat her properly because we need her, and he elaborated, saying her family is apparently rich, and I am not involved in any family matters, so I don't know anything. I was so disgusted by this behavior, and I just stared at him. Apparently, the plan was to get mom and dad to be kind to her, so once their baby arrives, they'll get all the financial support they need. I was so disgusted by this behavior, and I just stared at him with confusion. I didn't get too much sleep, so I wrote my story here and added this because I wanted insight before I updated. Thank you for your comments and advices. I see a lot of people telling me to record her, and I am still having second thoughts about it. Right now, I am just so exhausted of the drama, revelations, and mostly my schoolwork. I want to be a biologist one day, and I'm working hard to get into my dream college, and this drama is not helping. I'm also suspicious of my brother because it seems like there is more to the story than he's letting on. So Reddit, I will see you later or whatever when I have something else relevant to update. Right now, I need to finish a lot of things, cause luckily my brother became her temporary slave, but I don't know what will happen when he goes back to work. We'll see. Update 2. So a small clarification about my sister-in-law's family. Yes, they are quite well off, and I just found out my leech of a family is mooching off of them. But here is a brief explanation if anyone is curious. Sister-in-law's family doesn't like my family because they see us as lower class from theirs, so they never supported my brother and sister-in-law, never attended the wedding, and never supported them. But my suspicion is that they want to get on the good side of my sister-in-law's parents by having a baby to either soften their hearts or demand help because her parents always wanted grandchildren. I am questioning if my sister-in-law is aware of this or not, or if she's a part of it. I'm not sure. I don't have time to dig for answers, and I'm just going off of the information I got and my suspicion, so sorry if I didn't answer any questions. My mind is foggy due to stress and so many pending activities for school. I am so sorry. I will update if anything else happens. Thank you all for your support and feedback. There's a lot of dynamics and angles here. I don't really have anything for this one. I mean, they're like mooching off the rich people, but they're kind of like mean rich people. And then, you know, the sister-in-law is being mean, but they want money because they're poor. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't have anything. Really nothing. I don't even have a joke for this one. So if you've got any thoughts or insights about this one, please feel free to share it in the comments. I read all the comments. But anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. We are still doing the long videos. They are long. It's long in the recording booth. It's just me in here. It's so lonely. Please send help. Please send food. I haven't left the house in 20 years. Please help. No, I'm joking. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you also have a very good day. Okay, bye-bye.